Okay, hopefully you guys are here because you just watched my video where I said Talking Black, where I read Talking Black by Henry Louis Gates. It's me, Brianna J. Welcome back to my channel. We talk all things black literature, all things black excellent, all things black cool. And talking black, you know what I'm saying? It's Black History Month, so I'm just going in. But if you like what you hear so far, then go ahead and smash that subscribe button and let's get into this essay. Okay. So I read Talking Black by Henry Louis Gates, and he had some shit to say. And basically his whole theory in this book, in this essay, is really like, look, when are black people gonna represent for black people in black spaces, or they gonna keep thinking that we ain't nothing but parrots? Oh. And he dropped so much weight in this thing. And he starts off pretty much by telling us, like, listen, white people are so interested in denying our humanity that some have gone to say that they will only respect the black man when he can speak Greek syntax. I believe another time in a Zora Neale Hurston essay I was reading, where she talks about how, when she wrote this in what white publishers won't print, was a man trained his black slave, to understand high math and Latin and calculus and all this stuff. And he brings his neighbor over to see this great thing because he says, look, oh my God, we've been wrong this whole time. Clearly black people have brains. Clearly black people can learn. Clearly they're human. And his neighbor says, I am not convinced that he is doing anything more than parroting off what he was taught, but he had no full understanding or conceptualization of what it is he's saying or doing. So I still won't believe that he is a human. He is more like a parrot. Flash forward to like 1897. We have someone telling Crumble, I won't listen to this black person unless he can speak in the perfect syntax. This leads so many different black people across the globe to try to become this thing. And we see it even in the works of Countee Cullen. God, why bid me sing and make me black? You know, we have Phyllis Wheatley, who is prophesizing everything just like they wanted, written in perfect grammar and perfect syntax and mastering all the sonnets, and they still deny the intelligence, deny the genius, deny the art that lives in these works. So that becomes the question: when are we going to be respected? And if we're never going to get this white validation and criticism and theory, then when are we as black writers and black critics and black readers going to start validating one another? Why do we have to wait for the New Yorker or, you know, Oprah's book club and all these different things to say, yes, you're good enough? Why is it that we aren't encouraging one another in these spaces? And Henry Louis Gates almost says it's because we have, in one way or another, sold ourselves out to these white institutions where we're either teaching African American literature or we're writing things that are outside of our norm, right? The capitalistic binds that tie us lead us not to be able to enjoy, capitalize, speak on, and add to the canon of black literary thought. And that in itself is a problem. But he also says, just pulling some stuff from the text, he says the salient sign of the black person's humanity, that indeed the only sign for Calhoun would be the mastering of the very essence of white civilization, of the very foundation of the complex fiction upon which white Western culture had been constructed. And it's a long racist tradition in Western letters of demanding that black people prove their full humanity. And I mean, we know that that's true. We've always been tested on, is she human? Like, how many court cases have there been where we have to say, well, we're not human, or well, we don't deserve that, or da-da-da. And it comes around this point of, yes, people have rights, but are they people? And how it's trickled down into even the most interesting institutions like literature, and literature is pushed into this whiteness and held to this degree that, and it's thought that black people cannot enter it or integrate within that society because they don't have the brain to conceptualize the theories and the ideas that are taking place in this literary movement. To which I personally say, fuck off. Okay. But anyway, so back then, Crummell and a lot of other, blacks believed that if you master the master tongue, if you learn how to master the master's tongue, then we can have intellectual freedom and social equality. But Western culture insists that the black person must claim his rightful heritage to be that of here. So he has to be doing Western things. He can't be in a caste education. He can't be having training, and he cannot be included in a Negro curriculum, quote unquote. So what's the problem? What is the problem? Black people are writing and white people are saying, yes, but is it art? Is it literature? Does it matter? Should we even consider it in the canon because we don't think it represents the American stream of thought? It says, unlike almost every other, the African-American literary tradition was generated as a response to allegations that its authors did not and could not create literature. And this is considered the signal measure of a race's innate humanity. And I mean, we heard it all before. I've heard it all before. But your lies ain't working now. Look who's hurting now. Yeah, it's time I shut you down. Yeah, it's time I shut you down. No, but dead ass. Like, come on, like, how many years are we gonna go through all of this and be like, and then how long are black people gonna continue to be like, no, let me prove it to you? Like, I'm so tired of proving shit to white people. It's so insane, tiresome. It's not even white people, all people. Like, baby, take me for what I am or leave me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's overwhelmingly annoying to continue to be like, prove it, prove it, prove it. No one else is forced to prove anything. I am because I say I am. I think, therefore I am. How about that? Take that. Anyway, to keep going though, at this time they were very much in the act of proving it, and they're proving it and they're proving it. And we get all these great writers out of it, but yes, they are not. Are they being intrinsically themselves? Are they talking black? And I think that in proving it, they're asking us to separate ourselves from our blackness. How well can you play the part of the white man and less of the part of the black person? And so I think this is what leads Gates to say, you know what? Instead of proving it, why don't we validate one another? Why don't we use theory to talk about and think about the things that are happening in black society using black voices and speaking with black words and talking the way black people understand? Why are we positioning our works of literature to reach the ideology of white readers instead of writing to the audience in which we can most relate? Why are we trying to validate and prove our existence to people who don't want to see us as people when we can simply have this dialogue amongst ourselves and understand that that is valid in itself? And so, he talks about these Mockingbird Poets. He says, their use of European and American literary conventions has been considered a corruption of a pure black expression found in forms such as the blues, signifying spirituals, and African American dance. So he talks about how when Phyllis Wheatley and other people tried to, County Cullen, tried to emulate the white voice, tried to master the sonnet, tried to master iambic pentameter, all these things of their literary tradition, that in some way we lose a part of what makes us so special because we're not talking black, right? We're separating in the words of W.B. Du Bois, two souls torn asunder, and we're allowing the whitest of our soul to take that mainstream stage, which will inevitably leave our blackness to be forgotten and not to be celebrated for all the beauty that it is. He then goes on and says, I've tried to work through contemporary theories of literature, not them to apply them to black texts, but to transform by translating them into a new rhetorical realm to recreate through revision the critical theory at hand. As our familiarity with the black tradition and with literary theory expands, we shall invent our own black text-specific theories, as some of us have begun to do. We must learn to read a black text within a black formal cultural matrix as well as this white matrix. So he said, for us to truly love and value the beauty of black literature, we also should start looking at it through black theory, right? Because trying to apply black literature to a white lens will always deny a big portion of the beauty that is represented there, because they can't see the subtleties and notions that we can. So he says, the black tradition exists only insofar as blacks enact it. So if our artists, our writers, our publishers, our playwrights, our producers, our directors don't show blackness in its fullness, then it will not exist in the literary canon or the art canon that will reflect our time. So maybe it's not a big deal for today, but in a stretch of time, we will be a lost people. So then he goes on to say, I have tried to employ contemporary theory to defamiliarize the text of the black tradition. Ironically, it is necessary to create distance between the reader and text in order to go beyond reflexive responses and achieve critical insight into intimacy with their formal workings. By trying to avoid confusing my experience as an African American with the act of language that defines a black text, not to shy away from white power, that is, literary theory, but to translate it into the black idiom, renaming principles of criticism, naming indigenous black principles of criticism. So he says his goal as a critic is to re-establish this space and almost to create a safe place where black people can, one, have their art thought at, looked at, criticized, right, broken down, analyzed through a theory or a lens that looks at blackness as a beautiful thing and not something to be mocked and ridiculed, right? And so he says, we will not protect the integrity of our tradition by remaining afraid of or naive about literary theory. Rather, we will inflict upon it the violation of reflexive, stereotypical readings or non-readings. So he says, look, we can't get away from critical theory because they gonna never get away from critical theory. What we need to do is to consistently push our way into the room and redefine how we look at these things in these lenses and push the envelope, or else they're gonna consistently criticize our art as being useless and having no merit, when in fact it has the most merit and speaks to our actual experience here in America and should be thought of and considered as a beautiful piece of work. So he says, talk, so basically, essentially, talk black, write black, and respond in a black way. Like, let's go back to being fully, happily, purely black, and let's publicize these works in a way that represents their uniqueness. Let's stop trying to attach a white lens and a white theory to innately black works. Let's look at it as Black people and rename and reshape the theory in a way that can fully represent the complexity of the work, because they also represent the complexity of the experience. Somebody say amen. Hallelujah. All right. That's the end of that. I hope y'all follow where I was coming with that. And if you don't, then go back and read Talking Black with Henry Louis Gates Jr. Again, great critic, great guy that added to the lyric canon. And yeah, I'll be back tomorrow.